A lot of the scientist guys, they're looking at people's swings that have dead hand or passive swinger releases, and they're saying, you can't hold shaft flex. It doesn't happen. There's a sequence to the body. It doesn't do that.
Yeah.
John, you're not right. And I'm saying, no, I'm right. Because look, I'm doing it.
And this one, you're letting it catch up.
No, I'm actively, no, I'm not letting it catch up. I'm actively
okay, gotcha.
rotating with aggression in my forearms. I'm watching like what Mac's doing, and so then the quick story with Mac, it's for the Morad guys it's sort of an interesting story. I'm playing in the BC Open in Canada, and there's a guy named Carlos Espinoza, and he's a Mac student, and he's from Mexico, and he's a great player. He won on the Asian Tour, and really good player. And my roommate, Vic Wilk, great left-handed player that won on the Hogan Tour in Canada. So anyway, Carlos somehow gets a hold of Mac's secret manuscripts. He's got the manuscripts.
Oh, the printout. Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. This is in the 80s. It's like, shh,
right.
Nobody's supposed to have this, right?
Yeah.
But Carlos has it. So we're like, he's almost nervous about showing it to us. It's almost like he feels like he's not doing it. Only Mac gave this to me and keeping it secret. He's very secretive and stuff.
Sure.
But anyway, so we're looking through it and diagrams and stuff like this. But basically, what I got out of it is that what Mac was teaching is that the rotation is just going to be very level, narrow stance. It's kind of like the figure skater spinning in, tight, right, going around. The shoulders, the right shoulder is going to just go right through where the left shoulder was, like this.
Okay.
And the way that the club is going to stay on plane is that the right elbow is going to straighten out on the downswing, like this, so I can turn my shoulders really level like this, and keep the club from coming over the top.
Right.
And then the rest is just, he's going to get into all these angles, and it's got to be, the wrist has got to be this angle and all that stuff. But the layman's Cliff Notes version is basically, it's here, the right arm straightens out into the right hip pocket, he moves around and moves in the finish. Okay, what I would see with Mac is that Mac himself on his videos looks like he's just picking up speed through the strike. He's holding shaft flex right here. I've got videos where his shaft is flexed back like this. Okay, he's coming in. It's got a sound on the golf ball. Okay, and his students, other tour players, I think Dan Forsman, Mark Feil were working with him, and they're setting up. The knees are bent, the hands are low. You set the wrist, you straighten the right arm out, and you go around. Well, but they don't have that sound.
Right.
It looks like
all the stuff, but they didn't have the post-impact acceleration.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Right. And the thing is that, I'm not here to be critical of Mac O'Grady, but what I'm saying is that in the stuff that I saw teaching, I never saw him really teaching guys to accelerate. Now I do know that Mac swung one of those fan clubs. It's got the fan blades. Okay.
Like in the 90s, that was really big.
Well, he was doing that in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And those things were around in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
They were an old thing. So Mac's got this, this fan club, we got the fan blades, and just working that thing.
So he's starting from kind of like a knee high or so, and then
just before, just working these muscles.
Go all the way from the top.
No, he's just working these muscles over here, right? Just working that.
Yeah.
So of course I get one of those fan clubs to, and I start doing that.
You saw him doing that on the range or whatever?
No, I'd heard from a confidant.
Right.
That's what Mac was working on. When I started studying the films, I saw that these great players were holding shaft flex.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see, there's pictures of Hogan where things like this right before impact. Mac doing like this. The Golf Digest did an article in the 70s, 80s of the Iron Byron machine that would test golf balls. Okay.
Yeah.
And it had a slow motion, like of the whole thing with a high-speed camera, and you see the shaft really not flexing that much. And then it comes down here and it starts flexing, and then right before impact it looks like this, right?
Oh, really?
And that's how they design. It's a machine, right? So it's just going. It's got a center. It's a center hub with an attachment to the club, and it's just going right.
Yeah.
And because they want the golf ball to fly perfectly. So the scientists at that time, I'd say were ahead of the game. But in the magazine, because like I said, there's no internet, there's no YouTube, there's nothing, we had to get our information from each other, from magazines, from what was on TV, or old film reels that had been converted to videotape. And hey, I got a videotape of, I mean, it was almost like sacred stuff. Like I remember a guy like offering me like $1,000 for the Ben Hogan tape that I had. Can you make me a copy? And I'm like, no, it's mine. You know, I'm not going to give it to you. I'm playing against you, right?
Yeah, right?
I mean, if I'm thinking like that, I bet Hogan's thinking like that too in his era. So that's where I'm getting my information, and I'm seeing this holding shaft flex. So it's like, okay, well, then I've got a high-speed camera, 10,000 shutter frames with a global shutter, okay, the good one back in the 80s.
That was shoot on film.
No, on this was on digital tape.
Oh, okay.
It was the little mini cassette tapes with a high speed. It was like a Sony CCD V101, I think was the camera that I had. Okay. 10,000 shutter frames. And so I start filming, you know, and it's like, it's hard to hold shaft flex. Like, how the hell do you do this? You know?
Because when you try to hold shaft flex and you talk about it to people, the very first thing people do is just handle drag. And they try to shove the hand forward through it.
Right. So here was the first thing. Let me grab my impact bag, bring this over here. Okay. Now, certainly, like you said, if you handle drag, you're going to be here.
Yeah.
Or you're just going to come like.
Yeah, and you'll see like hands forward in impact or whatever.
Right.
But it won't have the stuff.
Right. It's not going to. This isn't going to hold shaft flex.
Okay.
So what I figured out is that if I come here, and I drop the shaft halfway down, and then pick up speed here. Now you're going to see that I'm going to hold shaft flex.
What do you mean drop the shaft halfway down?
All right, in other words, I just let it unhinge.
Yeah. Okay.
And now I'm going to rotate. I'm going to do a combination of forearm rotation. I'm going to apply this. At the last minute, I'm going to come down, and I'm going to pick up the speed. So right here. Can you see that? As compared with handle dragging.
Okay.
In other words, I'm actively.
So handle dragging would be more of a karate chop going towards the ball, and this one you're letting it catch up.
No, I'm actively. No, I'm not letting it catch up. I'm actively.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Rotating with aggression in my forearms, but I can't do it too fast from the top. I've got to let it come down, and then accelerate. And the more the shaft finishes in line, the better my chances are of holding shaft flex. Okay, if I'm coming
in line, what do you mean by in
like
line?
in line with not forward leaning.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Like in line here with my body.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I would practice with one hand, and I'm definitely not. I'm trying to avoid forward shaft lean, because if I do that, I'm not accelerating. I'm using this instead of passively.
Yeah.
Or see, a lot of the scientist guys, they're looking at people's swings that have dead hand or passive swinger releases, and they're saying, you can't hold shaft flex. It doesn't happen. There's a sequence to the body. It doesn't do that.
Yeah.
John, you're not right. And I'm saying, no, I'm right. Because look, I'm doing it. Yeah. You know, look, that's going to hold shaft flex. But if my hand's out here, it's not. If I get fully rotated, yes, I am. If I come in here, I'll guarantee you I'm accelerating that club head into that bag, okay? Because my hands, when I talk about my hands, I'm talking about including the forearm rotation, because the forearm rotation affects my hands. My hands can't move themselves. They're attached to my wrists. You have a cocking of the wrist.
Yeah.
You have a rotation. So there's an uncocking. If I don't uncock my wrist, I miss the bag, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to be like this. So there's an uncocking that's happening, but there's also a rotation of the forearm happening.
So the uncocking happens first, and then
together.
Together. Okay.
So in the golfing machine, there'd be a sequence that would say, you know, that the wrists uncock and then they hinge. They'd say, you know, they're going to uncock and then they're going to move over. But with when a hitting action, as I would teach it, they're going to work in unison. The forearm rotation is happening, and the wrists are uncocking, because if they don't uncock, the club's going to be above the ball.
Right.
Right. So of course, you can see this is happening in unison, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So once I did that, and I look on the camera, and I can see, okay, I'm holding shaft flex. Yep. That was the only way that I'm going to do it. Okay. So
maintain that.
Now, now what happens is, the longer my backswing gets, the harder it is to do this, because I start generating too much velocity coming down here. And if it's too much more than I can do at the bottom, then I'm going to lose shaft flex. Does that make sense?
Yeah, go back to like where you're just about to snap onto it. It's funny because a lot of times we use the words like holding shaft flex, but you're not, with the hands, you're not holding anything. You're doing the opposite.
I'm holding, well, I'm holding the shaft flex. In other words, I'm not releasing it.
You're pinning the
You're either
shaft.
holding something or you're dropping it, or you're releasing it. So I'm not. In other words, I'm pinning it. Maybe that's a better word.
Right.
I'm pinning it
because you're not like trying to hold these angles.
No,
as
no.
You turn around. You're actually.
I'm not saying I'm holding my wrist. I'm saying I'm holding shaft flex. Now, if I take a longer backswing, well, there's a temptation to want to come down hard. I mean, now especially with the golfing machine, and I still struggle with this today, because from the day I was this big, I've always been like Bradley Hughes, the partnered with me in ABS. We're both like kind of late loaders, where it's like late and then lock that thing in. Well, when you do this, you start stressing the shaft at transition. It's like you start noodling that thing in. Now, if I've got this thing flexed like this, I've got to maintain that.
Oh yeah.
That all the way down to the ball. Well, how am I going to do that? So what do? This is problematic. So the first evolution was this, understanding that would hold shaft flex, and it wasn't this. It wasn't moving fast here. It was that I've got to rotate the forearms quickly. And when Bradley and I had talked about it, he always liked to feel like he was using all the loft of the club head. Okay, I mean of the club face, using the loft, which I know it sounds crazy, but when I'm playing well, I almost feel like I'm trying to come in with a bent left wrist at impact, which sounds crazy.
Yeah.
But the reason is because the next handoff of the baton is the torso rotation. Okay. So whatever I'm able to do here, now I'm handing the baton to my torso rotation, and I've got to be quicker and faster than whatever I could do here. In other words, if I'm on a scale of 1 to 10 here, holding shaft flex pressure is at 6 or 7.
Yeah.
I got to be 8 or 9 here.
Yeah.
So it's like then it became something like this, where I would take a swing here, I'd come down gently, pick up speed with the hands, and then crush it with the rotation. So then it starts to look like this.
Yeah.
Now, how am I going to do that?
How many parts is that? Is that 1, 2, and then 3 zip to the finish, or like in your mind, or how does that work in your mind?
Not anymore. It's just one.
When you were doing it.
It felt like a two part.
So you're 1.
It's like shifting gears in a car in a stick shift, which no one drives stick shifts anymore. I say that to the younger generation, like, what is that? But they used to put your foot on the clutch, and then you would shift gears and then release the clutch. So it's the same principle. So we're going to come in here. I'm going to feel slow, picking up speed with the forearm rotation, get that in line, and then I'm going to take this whole thing and drag this thing into my finish. So going fast.
Yeah.
A lot of work, right? But, and then we get back to Mac. What was he doing with the fan club?
Yeah.
Okay, problem with the fan club, I found, is that fan club feels different than a golf club.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah.
So now I do the fan club. All right, muscles are there. I pick up the golf club, feels light as a feather.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't feel the club.
Yeah, the head.
And now I get around the short game, and I feel like the club's this light little thing, and now I can't chip anymore.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, whoa, I got to back up. I'm going to do this with a golf club, not a fan club.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm holding a club, I want it to be a club that I would hit and play with. I don't use any sort of swing aids. I don't use noodle shafts. I don't use anything like that, because I want to be practicing what it feels like to hold my golf club.
Yeah.
What does my club feel like? Because I look down, I've got a certain lie angle here, right? This. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to do here. Now I have to say, okay, well, if I'm going to maintain shaft flex, certainly we can see that it's easier to accelerate something if you take a shorter backswing. Let me explain now another reason why this is good. Because you have this pressure that's coming from this side of the shaft. So as I'm actively rotating, I'm putting pressure here. Now you talked about it being in the right pinky finger, the right index finger.
Say that, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really, everywhere that my skin is touching the grip. It's in my left hand, it's in my right hand, it's this whole thing as I'm pressuring this shaft.
Some people say like, okay, go to like a pressurized impact.
Yeah,
you can do
so,
it here.
right, yeah.
So if you're here, it's not just force across the shaft this way, it's also what?
It's right in here. Look at the back.
That it's all on the aft side of the shaft like this, or it's also pulling it up too?
Well, it's mostly, I feel it here, but I also feel like it's this way pulling.
Like a coupling.
Yeah, it's kind of like this is pulling this way and this is going this way.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
so they're both the hands are active. And Hogan talked about that. He talked about you hit, he said I wish I had three right hands. I think I don't think he said 3 right arms. I think he said 3 right hands.
Yeah.
So he's talking more about the rotation. The hands are attached to the forearms.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that's what he's saying is a forearm rotation. And then he said, you have to hit just as hard with the left hand. Now here's a really critical thing for ball control. If I am feeling this pressure at impact, okay, this loaded shaft, holding shaft flex pressure, I am not only feeling that in the shaft in my hands, I feel it in my arms. Now look at there's pictures of Hogan where he's wearing a short sleeve shirt and you see his veins are popping out of his arms.
Yeah.
Popping out like this, right? Yeah. That's not dead hands, that's not dead hands.
No.
Right? No. So boom. Okay, so the veins are popping out of the arms here and the torso is rotating. Now when I press that shaft into the back, I feel it in my arm, I feel it in my shoulder, I feel it in my gut. Right here, I feel it in my legs, and I feel it in my feet. My entire body's engaged, okay? Now, if I have that much feeling of the sensation of the shaft, I can feel exactly where that club face is at. I know exactly where that club face is at. It's not timing it. I'm not timing the releasing of the shaft to where it comes in line, and it's just a guess.
Yeah, once you lose that pressure, it's its own object.
Like I said in our last talk, we're always going to feel that pulling away. I mean, if I let go of the club, it's moving away from me, right?
Yeah.
We're always going to feel that, but are we feeling this?
Yeah.
Into the shaft. That, okay? That's what's going to give you the control of the club face.
But if you do that too early, then this goes from bowed to straightened real quick,
yeah.
And then you can never get it back.
You can never get it back.
Yeah, once you lose that bow,
it's gone.
Because that's, I think, what a lot of people do is they try that, they lose it, and then they try to get it back. And
yeah. Now, how would we then try and continue this shaft flex? So we know that we're going to have to use our body rotation through the strike and beyond, because what else do we have? I mean, whatever we're coming down with here, I mean, if I'm opened up like this at impact,
yeah,
and I'm coming through, what do I have to reach maximum speed here?
A little, just like 4 inches of adduction or something.
Not much, not much. So when you see that the shaft is moving kind of left and around here,
yeah.
Well, what does that do to the club face? If I'm coming in here and I'm moving around, I can keep that club face looking at the target.
Right. Whereas if you let it go towards first base and stuff, then it gets this way.
Yeah, well, yeah. So the swinger's release is going to use the right arm to square the club face like this. So do I want to have the club face here? Or do I want to have the club face here?
Yeah.
I want to have that thing looking at the target. So, but what I've got to do is I have to have it open. Like, I've got to have that thing skyward here. And then that gives me the green light to then rotate in and square up the club face.
How do you not go from open here to there and then equally shut, as open as you were here, being shut
because the left shoulder is going to outrace my hands. Okay. So in other words, I don't know, from this view, if I get,
yeah,
I'm going to have, when I come down here, when I come in line here, yes, if my body stalls, you're right, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
But if my left shoulder takes the baton and now moves faster, I get, which is going to in slow motion look like. That's how you do it.
All right, guys, so in the next video, we're going to get into hitting some shots, and we're going to have some stuff with Michael about to turn pro, some stuff with me, and then some stuff with Anthony. Kind of going through really the guts of how it's done, how it's converted. If you're interested in more about John and everything that he's doing, I think the best place is on advancedballstriking.com, right?
Yep.
And he's also on Facebook, and he has his own YouTube channel too. It's just type in John Erickson with a K, EIRCKSON, and you'll see his YouTube channel on there. He's starting to post stuff there about once a week or more regularly. Anyway.
Yeah, and one of our, Justin down in Singapore has been handling the Instagram account. There's
Okay.
an account there, Advanced Ball Striking.
On Instagram, Advanced
And
Ball Striking.
he's been, so we're starting to develop kind of a team at Advanced Ball Striking where we've got kind of a, like 5 guys now that are all like, okay, we're gonna, because it got too big. The site, it started small.
Yeah.
Like you're big now, right? But I'm sure you're not just doing it all yourself now, right? You have to have some help. You
Like
know?
a mic, yeah.
You know,
Mic, and that's about it.
but what happened with ABS, it started small and it turned into this huge giant elephant.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, I got to deal with this elephant now.
Yeah.
And it became just too much. So it needs more, you know, it's like a business. You start having to hire people. You got to start, you know.
Yeah.
So that's, you know.
All right, thanks for watching, guys. Hit the subscribe button to see more. Bye.